The finals are in full swing. Just how did the Giants cough up their lead against the Swans, the Lion that must back it up in September? Chris Scott's Cats into another prelim. Plus, can the Hawks conjure up some more wizardry against the Power? This is Access All Areas thanks to Crypto.com. Happy Monday. Damian, Barrett and Matthew Lloyd are with me. Gents, let's get straight into it because we have mouth-watering semi-finals coming our way this weekend. It all starts on Friday night, Damo.
It does, Nat, and the Hawks will go over to Adelaide Oval and begin a resounding favourite in a match that they deserve to be favourites in, Nat, because they are the club that fears nobody in this final series.
Yeah, they certainly are. And then on Saturday, it is the Giants and the Lions at NG Stadium. So let's dig a little bit deeper and we'll start with the Hawks because from 0-5, Sam Mitchell's men have been able to turn their season around. They won an elimination final against the Dogs at the MCG on Friday night. And we've talked at length about their offence, Lloydie, but it was their team defence that was a standout.
It is, Nat, and the number you want to keep teams under 50 inside 50s. If you can do that, you're more likely to win the game. And they kept the Western Bulldogs to 39 entries. So the Bulldogs were okay through the middle of this ground, but they just couldn't get past this spot. So where Sam Frost is, about that 70 metres out from goal, they just couldn't penetrate. And it's because of the pressure. It's perceived pressure, it's actual pressure. And then they just panicked. Even Ed Richards, a good user, he's trying to force something because Hawthorn, Damo, so good behind.
Just a layperson, Lotto, what you're saying there is that the damage from that perspective is done before the ball reaches the defensive 50 of the Hawks. It's team defence, and it's why, though, as we now look ahead to what happens on Friday night, the loss of Sam Frost, and we'll have a look at this specifically in a moment, Lotto, but as we watch this unfold and how they effectively toyed with the Dogs, not having Will Day as part of that midfield mix, which is the team defence, and now not having Sam Frost, it is going to be of concern.
Yeah, it is, but I think they're going that well. I think Will Day's been spoken about a lot. They've covered him really well when he was out, and then also this is the injury where Sam Frost just
so late
5 minutes to go. Yeah, you wonder if he'd been sore beforehand or just whether it's a one-off moment that happened. So huge loss, but I love the way they play. Now, he's important to them because he just shuts down the opposition tall, but I'd be bringing in a CJ. I'd go aggressive again. I love that they get the footy to ground. Scrimshaw, I've hardly seen outmarked. He was outmarking Jamara Ugle-Hagan.
And Sicily just reads every ball that comes in.
Well, so I just think they'll be fine for this game. Can it get them through three games?
So don't replace him with a
like for like.
defender.
So it could be a Jai Sarong or an Ethan Phillips who's played one AFL game, and that coincidentally was in round 10 against Port Adelaide this year and actually did pretty well. So you would go a CJ over one, I guess, key defender.
Yeah, I would. I just think that there's nothing in Port Adelaide's forward line that would worry me enough. And you might go, what about Charlie Dixon? Well, just get it to ground on Charlie, and I'd back all those guys to run off him anyway, like the Hawks have done all season.
I'm glad you're confident, Lloydie, because I am not. But I'll tell you what, today is Meek Monday, and I want to talk about Lloyd Meek because Hawthorn's ruckman has been outstanding. Of course, the tweak to the ruck rule in the pre-season has certainly helped him. He's come into the side since round 4 and hasn't looked back, Damo. He's been outstanding. Yeah,
just the impact he had on this game. And he loves the body contact, and the opponent he had on this game in question on Friday night, Tim English, doesn't. And that's a problem for the Bulldogs. We'll look at the Bulldogs later in today's show. But a lot of these plays that we celebrate from a Hawks perspective, D'Ambrosio getting involved there, Newcomb kicking that goal, Warple taking that, they're being set up by this big man, Lloyd Meek.
And we're hearing about the battle, the way they've got battled and the way they've got Barras. Well, they did the same. He flew to Perth. He sold the dream to Lloyd Meek. Meek's repaid him with that confidence he's playing with. It's been one of the finds of the season.
So the Hawks will, of course, play Port Adelaide, who are certainly feeling the heat after an 84-point loss. We saw their defence exposed when it came to the Cats' small forwards, Lloydie. They kicked 10 goals between them in Stengel, Manor and Myers. So how is that defence going to go up against the likes of the Wizard and Jack Ginnivan, Dylan Moore and Luke Bruce?
Yeah, and Connor McDonald. I think they're going to struggle, to be honest, Nat. I think that they were far too loose. You lose Kane Farrell and Dan Houston, that's going to hurt you. But I thought Lockie Jones struggled. Even Travis Boak got caught back there on the last line of defence. Look at him, he's back there. So I just don't see how they cope. They've got to tighten up for starters. Even the goal of the year from Jeremy Cameron, Alir was too far off. So they've got to tighten right up. They can't be this bad again. But Ken Hinkley, Damo.
Yeah.
Is he coaching for his career?
Yeah, he is. Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's dramatic to say that, Lord. I mean, even early in the season, I always felt he had to probably make a grand final, and now we get to a stage where he's lost a qualifying final. I do always say, though, we need to beware the losing qualifying finalist. As bleak as it looks right now, they did finish second for a reason. If he can regroup and get something out of the leaders of the club that did let him down on the weekend just gone, but I'm not ruling them out.
Yeah, you shouldn't, but it's just that Hawthorn have been the best side, I think, for 3 months.
Yep.
So that's why the Hawks go in as overwhelming favourites.
Well, Zach Butters, I wonder if he'll play. He's got those bruised ribs. He looked very sore, obviously been subbed out of that game. Connor Rozee is the other one, the skipper. He hasn't had his best season by his high standards, and his performance in that qualifying final was a little underwhelming, Damo.
It was, and it's a worry given he is the official leader of the club. And we're just going to show some vision here that is of concern for him. If his attention or lack of attention to the opponent that he's got inside the centre square. And we know what he can do, but he hasn't done it regularly in 2024. And I've got a view, and I reckon it could be one of those stories, Nat, that come post-season we will find out that he's been carrying something of quite significant injury. They're not admitting to that, and I get the element of you cross the white line, it's fair game. But this is not good vision, Lordo.
No, but you've got to have an aggression. You've got to be aggressive when you're a centre bounce player, and there's nothing. That's Meek. We talked about Lloyd Meek. He's been Meek in the centre bounce there. Connor Rozee. So he's just not playing tough enough. And then this was just the pressure of Geelong on the night that overwhelmed Port Adelaide. And this last effort even drops a mark that he should be taking. But even the follow-up, he's just walking there. You know, he doesn't get back on the foot. You're the captain. So I'm sure those would be highlighted in the team meeting today.
The worry was there was no resistance, even when the game was lost. Sometimes you can still gain something quite significant in the big picture if you fight a game out, but there was none of that.
And Connor Rozee also very quiet in last year's semi-final loss to the Giants. Only the 17 disposals, no clearances and no goals from him. So he certainly needs to step up and have a captain's game against the Hawks on Friday night. Our crypto brave play this week is Geelong's perfection when it comes to selection, and full credit to Chris Scott because he didn't bring in Hawkins, Guthrie or Sam De Koning, but there's 6 debutants, Lloydie, for the finals. They stood up.
They did really well, and I really rate Chris Scott and the decisions that he makes in these situations. So not to play Max Holmes last year was big because he passed the fitness test, but he said, no, I just can't.
In 2022.
Yeah, 2022, sorry. His gut told him that you don't take any risks at all, and he didn't do that the other night either. So he said, no, I can't be playing Tom Hawkins, I can't be playing Rowan, De Koning.
Yep.
And all these kids
Guthrie,
who played in their first final, Guthrie as well, had awesome finals. So you got Manor, who was brilliant. Lawson Humphries has been one of the finds of the season. Jack Bowes has just got better and better as the season's gone on. Shannon Neal, 9 marks. Here, Ollie
presence.
Dempsey. This is sensational. You see Boak again caught out in the square on Jack Bowes. So got so much out of so many players, and there's Manor again kicking another one.
And on top of those 6 debutants, there's 9 players in that team that won the other night that weren't in the 2022 Premiership team. So it's a completely different team that he's dealing with, and it's just the magic of Chris Scott that he just sets this team up every single year to give the players on the list a chance to perform in the big moments. And if it all goes well, they get there, and let's face it, they do get there because it's his 9th elimination final in 14 seasons.
Yeah, the prelim final in 2 weeks' time. Tom Stewart to return from, what are we saying? It's a hamstring-related flu illness kind of thing that's going on. Tom Hawkins played in the VFL at the weekend. Just the 1 goal. He's not coming back into this side, is he?
To me, no, but I'll leave it to the full forward.
No.
Cam Guthrie, a slight chance maybe later in the season?
I think a slight chance,
like,
Matt.
if they make
he's
it
got
to a
through 1
grand final.
game, and if there's an injury concern, as there was for Max Holmes in 2022, he's there. He's the one I feel.
Let's go to Saturday afternoon at the SCG. We were treated to an absolute thriller. The Giants held a 21-point lead at 3/4 time, and somehow they managed to lose it, probably off the back of some Isaac Heaney brilliance as well and some from Chad Warner. But, Lloydie, how did they lose this game?
Well, with the 666, if you dominate centre bounce clearance, you can go in and expose a team. And Chad Warner had 7 clearances himself in the last quarter. So they were +8 clearance, +8 contest. Suddenly you're under siege. So the pressure of the Giants was extreme. They did everything right. They were unbelievable, the Giants.
Look at this,
and
2 on 1.
Moments, yeah,
and he not just squares it, but he gets it and then does the most exquisite handball we've seen this season, and then the most exquisite kick we've seen this season off Heaney.
You're spot on. We can delve into stats as much as you like, but it's winning the key moments when you need to. And they won. This is another one. Blakey 1v2. And he wins it. So they won more moments than the GWS Giants, and it's as simple as that. and they get a bit of luck in between with Joel Amati here, Damo.
He ended up being in the right spot, Lord. I don't know whether he went for the ball or Taylor, but he missed both and ended up being in the perfect spot. And well done, because he needed to kick a goal and he did.
He's done nothing for 90
And even this tackle, though, Nat, just, I mean, the Kelly was free there and Warner went and got him. And it's just those little things that they did in the last quarter when they had to.
There were some iconic finals moments, but Isaac Heaney had a performance to remember. It's going to go down in history as one of the best performances I have seen in September. And this mark here will be replayed for decades to come. Incredible, flying so high over Jack Buckley, who tried to, I guess, help him on the way down too, Lloydie.
Leo Barry might be a bit nervous because he's loved that mark that he's had in that grand final. It was iconic. Well, this one is right up there, not a grand final, but the courage he played with, he kept that side in it. That was one of the great performances in a final that we've ever seen. And
Isaac Heaney's mum even commenting on Facebook and thanking Jack Buckley for just grabbing Isaac's hand to help him not land on his neck. It's a shame that Mark of the Year is only during the home and away season, that is for sure. Now, we have to talk about Tom Papley because he had been missing from this Swans outfit since round 19 with an ankle issue, and he reminded everyone, Damo, just how important he is to this
Well,
side.
he did. I mean, just look at the score when that goal is kicked, and it's not an easy goal. So he keeps them in it in that occasion. He then uses, this ball to perfection. Now, again, perfection came in the form of the mark as well, but it was a good kick in that moment to Heaney. He kicked another goal off this moment, Nat. He had 4 score assists. His handball, as we've already discussed on this show, to Heaney was unbelievable. He was instrumental in that last goal as well. They're not winning this game of footy without him, and the energy with which he created actually got them going when they needed it.
Yeah, he is just incredible. But there was an incident at half-time. There were certainly sparks flying. It got fiery at times. And Giants football boss Jason McCartney and Tom Papley just crossing paths there. I mean, McCartney probably shouldn't have been out there.
Oh, he shouldn't be there, Nat. I mean, I know he will say that he was a match day official, and as such, he's got access to the ground at quarter time. But putting himself in the line and the path of Tom Papley in that moment, I'm really keen to see what the words exchanged were between both. I'm really keen to see how that lines up with whatever sanctions have to come. But to me, there has to be a sanction.
Not just a please explain.
Not
like
just
Travis
a please
Cloak
explain. No, I mean, and also too, McCartney went into an umpire's area room at Manuka Oval back in 2021, questioning free kick counts. He's got a habit, or I should say at least a track record from that moment anyway, of getting himself involved in situations he should not be in as an official.
So, Lloydie, the Giants now face Brisbane in a cutthroat semi-final, and Jack Buckley and Sam Taylor, 2 of the best defenders going around. They're going to have a juicy matchup against some of these Lions forwards, aren't they?
Yeah, Danaher and Hipwood versus Taylor and Buckley. That's what you go to the footy for, just to watch matchups like that. And what I love about these two is, and I say it countless times, they don't just defend grass, they defend their man and then work off them from there. So it's going to be tough. Hipwood's a player under a lot of pressure because of his finals performances and his ability maybe to let teams down at key times. It's going to be tough, like against these two who are as honest and as good as any in the competition.
As we look at the dominance they had, and it still wasn't enough for their team to get the job done, Lordo, do you consider possibly a Billy Frampton type of role on Harris Andrews in last year's grand final? I say that. He played as a sacrificial lamb himself to try and keep Andrews out of it. Does Hipwood need to play that role against one of those two on the weekend?
Well, I think they need. I think he's too good a player for that to happen. You potentially don't. I think they tried. Joel Amati had the job to try and stop Sam Taylor. Didn't work. So sometimes it's tough for players to roll out there and play that role.
Just on the Lions' performance, I mean, it was pretty dominant at the Gabba on Saturday night. What did you like most about it, Lloydie?
Well, what I liked about it is Carlton. We talked about Hawthorn's defence before. Carlton couldn't move the footy at all. It was like a brick wall across half back. But also I just thought their ball movement and their connection, which sometimes they lack, was as good as anything you'll see, for a period. So even Chris Fagan said it was our best 55 minutes of footy in a long time.
Yeah, and it's fair to say, I mean, no matter who you're playing, a good team or a bad team, to keep them scoreless until 2 minutes or thereabouts before half-time of a game, it just happened to be an elimination final when they did that. I mean, we're about to now look at some of their problems in a moment anyway, after we talk about Cam Rayner, but the first half was close to football perfection.
Yeah, it was excellent football. They were so dominant, and a lot of it was off the back of this man, Cam Rayner, who has so much X factor. I've loved the season that he has put together, finished with 3 goals from 12 disposals, also took 6 marks, but the challenge now is how does he back it up? Because last year in his first final, he kicked 3 goals and then he went goalless in the prelim, and the grand final. So how does he do that, Lloydie?
Yeah, just get to as many contests as you can. Just work rate it is. And I was questioning Isaac Heaney this time last year. And I just wonder, he wouldn't. I'd love to see him train with Heaney.
They're similar traits, aren't they?
Yeah, they've got similar traits. So but you'd love to see him train with Heaney over an off-season, because this is what we're alluding to. So he was dominant in last year's first final, 3 goals, 16, and then he went missing for the next 2 finals. It gets harder. It's easy to win your first final. It gets harder to win the next, And so it's the same as a player. Can you stand up against the heat that the Giants are going to bring?
For the Blues, there was some intrigue around selection, obviously, in the lead up to this game. And then when the teams came out, the final teams, Tom De Koning was the sub, which I thought was strange, Damo. But when he came on, the Blues turned it on.
Well, it was an immediate spark. At least, I mean, his very first contest was one that went Carlton's way, and this is that moment. You can see the scoreline, you can see the time of match in which it came on. The subbing out of Matt Kennedy, that was strange in many people's eyes. I mean, as you say, the naming of Tom De Koning as the sub was strange, given you had Pittnett in the team and he wasn't subbed out, and the fact that they took Sam Docherty in off the back of a 26-week recovery from an ACL, that playing him doesn't line up with the fears potentially about De Koning getting through a game. So it's confusing, and I think there was a sense of panic in the entirety of the selection of him and then the use of him as a sub.
And Dane Zorko was terrific, especially in that first half. I think he had 19 touches, Lloyd. He could have used an Alex Cincotta maybe to shut him down.
Yeah, and even to Brisbane's credit, they go, you know what, we're not going to worry too much about Carlton, all their changes, because we know we've got a settled team, they've got an unsettled team. With Carlton, it was a Hail Mary, really. They took the kids out of it and thought maybe even our underdone experienced players would be better than them, but it really backfired.
Just one watch for the Lions this week, and that'll be on Jack Payne, unfortunately injuring his knee in this game. And it was such a shame because he'd missed the last 7 weeks of the home and away season with a foot injury. Darragh Joyce had come in to look after him. But what do the Lions need to work on, Lloydie?
Oh, well, they have to play 4 quarters, and they went to water. So, and I say it looked comfortable on the scoreline, but they were no good after that 55 minutes or that start. They just panicked. They went back to the Lions that have had momentum swings all year, where they lose leads. You know, they just aren't consistent. And the Giants played good, hard, tough footy, even though they had a poor last quarter themselves. I think they're not going to get away with not playing anything less than 3.5, 4 quarters this week.
All right, I want to take a look now at the 2 teams that are now done for the season. Of course, Carlton and the Western Bulldogs. We'll start with the Blues and their final 9 games of the season, Damo. It's pretty tough reading because they win 2 games and it was against West Coast and the Roos.
Yeah, and we're talking about the second last team and the third last team being those 2 wins only, Nat. They're in a holding pattern situation. 2022 just missed finals. 23 led a prelim final by 5 goals, lost it, and then 2024 lose badly an elimination final. It's game on for this footy club next year when it comes to Michael Voss's coaching and just the whole mindset and preparation for a team that they feel is premiership potential.
I think they've got to go all in for a small forward. I think Motlop's not good enough. Fantasia isn't there. Durden, Owies. Sorry, and a small forward. They went for Papley many years ago. They need a gun small forward, and their midfield mix just isn't quite right.
For the Bulldogs, they started the season 3-5 and then finished strongly. We were talking about them as a genuine wild card chance. Their midfield mix, is it becoming an issue, Lloydie? Yeah,
well, we all thought it would be a strength. They have all these players there, but they don't gel that well together. You know, when we've got Dale and Daniel and all these sorts of players, McRae. But I think McRae leaves, he just has to. How he was the sub the other night, I think that's saying it all. But I go all in. Bont, Liberatore, Richards must be a permanent. Yeah. You've got to put all the time into Sanders over the off-season. Bailey Smith is leaving. He's the type of player you'd love to come in with someone dynamic. Yep. So, it's a few issues.
It needs to be properly critiqued, Nate, the coaching of this club. The last 3 finals now have been lost on the backs of goal surges of significance by the opposition. The 2021 grand final conceded 16 of the last 17 goals. Conceded let go a 42-point lead against Fremantle in 2022 elimination final, and then 6 goals in a row on the game just gone also were kicked on the weekend.
So Luke Beveridge comes into his final year of his contract in 2025. The pressure's certainly going to be on.
Yeah, it is, and it should be on right now too. I mean, this club needs to debrief what happened here in this game because I reckon they need to just let him go into the season without the surety of the year beyond, as Ken Hinkley went into 2023 for Port Adelaide and came through it. But that's the situation for Luke
And
Beveridge.
Start a season better. Don't be in a position that you're chasing year after year after year.
Yeah, it tires you out, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
it does.
All right, that is all we have time for on Access All Areas. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back again next Monday after semi-final weekend.
Want to get all the latest footy news in one hit? From injuries to breaking news, the latest from the coaches, the Footy Feed team has you covered. Watch it now on afl.com.au and the AFL Live app or wherever you get your podcasts.